Welcome back, everyone. Thanks a lot for coming back. Thanks a lot for sticking with me through this lull. Weather's starting to cool off. It's September. The kids are back in school. Soccer is in full swing, at least for the kids anyway. Racing season's over for me, and my wife and I just completed the Door County Century. It was a 100-mile bike ride. That was a ride my wife and I do every year. Just kind of a traditional wrap up the summer, kind of the final couple event that we do riding. Of course I'm still riding all the time, but that's the last big event. So with the cooler weather and the sun going down much earlier and it getting darker out, it's time to do some stuff in the basement again. So a lot of things I've gotten since the last time I had a video. And some of them are coming by on the track right now. So I'm going to flip over and just give you a little run by as they come past. One of the first new things that I got was a SD40 in Chicago Northwestern. And then that kind of goes with the Kato engine that I bought. I also got a couple of new, hey, on cue, that's nice. Well, along with those tank cars, I also picked up these AccuRail covered hoppers. I think I might have touched on those in the last video. I ended up weathering them down, dulling the color a little bit. They were a little too bright when I fresh out of the box, so I wanted to dull them up a little bit, so I got those. And then of course there's a few other cars in here. I think I've had them for a while, but got them weathered and add them to the fleet. I know the Chicago Northwestern one here at the end. I know I showed him in a previous video. Some of the other things that I got, or one of the other things I got, was actually a Wisconsin Central SD40. It's a Kato unit, and I actually sold some of the Norfolk Southern units that I had to get it. I decided the SD60 I had a beautiful engine, but a little too modern for the era that I'm modeling. It had you know, some GPS units on the hood, or on the, yeah, well, I guess on the hood of the cab, the roof of the cab rather. So it just, I could have pried them off, but I thought, you know what, I'll come back to it. I'll get another Norfolk Southern unit to add to the collection. But in exchange for that, I ended up getting a, well, I've already started disassembling it, but so this is the Kato SD40. 6001. This is a former Algoma Central unit. And what's unique about this unit is that it has, well, not included in the Kato unit, but something that I wanted to model, is it has snow shields over the intake manifolds here, behind the cab. And then it also, and you can see, I don't know if this will show up, but you can see that Kato actually made provisions for this. The herald on the nose, on the short hood, is actually down lower, and that's because on this particular unit it was a nose-mounted headlight. The Kato unit, however, is a cab-mounted headlight. So I've started working on it a little bit, but I wanted to show you what the plans for it. On the Algoma Central unit, they actually had a cab-mounted bell right where the headlights would go on the cab itself. So I picked up some parts. They finally arrived. The only thing that hasn't arrived is the snow shields. So I'm going to just fabricate those myself. There's a couple of companies that make them, but the website that I ordered them from, I'm not sure what's going on, but it's literally been months, and I don't want to name the name of the website just because I don't think it's fair. I don't really know what's going on or why it's taking so long to get them. But for whatever the reason is, I'm just going to fabricate them myself and make do. If I get the new ones, well, I'll tear off the ones that I make. But anyway, so there's some other modifications that I want to do. I got, they're going to be really hard to see, but I got some 0603 LEDs for the ditch lights. And these come pre-wired up. I don't know if you can see it in the package, but they've got some wire already attached to them. You can get them with or without. I might be good with this soldering iron, but soldering onto these things, I'm going to pay the extra couple bucks to have them pre-soldered. So I'm going to wire these into ditch lights. I've got a plow, I've got some lift rings, you know, just miscellaneous stuff. I don't want to go overboard. Unfortunately, my layout isn't large enough to leave all of my equipment on the layout all the time. So I'm always lifting engines and freight cars and stuff off the layout. And because of that, I don't over detail things, just because with all the handling, things end up getting broken. Yeah, you can glue them back on, but after a while you get glue marks and stuff like that. So I go for a little bit of super detailing, but not super duper detailing. So slip over to the workbench and start through the process. So the first thing I did once I got this unit was I did some research, and I went to my trusty railroadpicturearchives.net, and I'm sure there's other good locations that you can go to, but there's a plethora of good pictures of this particular unit on here, so I thought I'd stick with this website for this one. So as I was describing here, you can see the hopefully that shows up, but you can see the snow shields right behind the cab, the cab mounted bell up at the top here, the nose mounted headlight right there, and then smaller things. One in particular, and the Kato unit actually has a I think it's a ratchet style, but this particular unit actually had a brake wheel, so that's something I'm going to have to change. It also has these lift rings right here for the frame itself, and that's not something the Kato unit has, so I'm going to add those. And then here's the ditch lights that I'm going to add. They're frame mounted, not pilot, or they're pilot mounted, not mounted up on the top here. So small things to take note. You know, add in the snow plow and just other small details. You know, I usually end up painting the fuel gauge red and adding in like the decals. That's the one thing about the Kato units. They're great runners, but they lack a lot of the smaller details. Your warning labels. The front marker here, their step edges aren't painted. It's little things like that we'll add. So for this particular unit, I went ahead and filed down where the cab mounted headlights were. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a piece of styrene to fill in. Actually, what I might do is I'm going to see if I can find some narrow styrene dowel if I have it. Plug these holes, file it down, and then what I'm going to have to do is drill a hole right in the center. I think I may actually luck out here. I may not. What I'm probably going to end up doing is putting a piece of styrene down to cover this hole up, or I might just plug the hole, depending on what I want to do here. I'm going to experiment a little, but I think that the particular piece that I have for this bell-mounted, cab-mounted bell is Miniatures by Eric, low hood bell, and it matches the bell that looks. It matches pretty closely to the bell that's in the pictures that I've found, and it has this sprue piece coming off here from the casting. I'm going to utilize that just by putting it in and that'll become my cab mounted bell. So what I'm going to have to do is fill the hole here. I'm going to probably just put some styrene in the hole, file it down, and then paint it. So just for reference, here's some of the other parts that I got. Detail Associates, these are the frame lift rings, so you can see they're a little bit larger. I'll be mounting those. I've got several ditch lights to go. This is just a 2-pack, again, Detail Associates. I believe these are Detail Associates. These are the all Kato engines come with MU cables, but these are the ones. This is the main one that comes out next to the coupler, the actual air line. And then I've got both wire formed grab lift rings and plastic. I like to use the wire ones if I can. And These I got from Hiatus Hobbies. I don't remember who makes these. I think these might be Detail Associates as well, but I'm not positive on that. The other thing I have so these are one of the things that Wisconsin Central used a lot of was these all-weather windows, 3-pane. These actually were really difficult to find. I forget the company that was making them, but actually discontinued them. And this MLE scale models started making them, and they're just a piece of sheet metal that you can bend up. So you can see here. It comes in a kit of 3. I've already used 1 on a previous project, so I've got 2 left. And then this piece here is actually the bending jig. You put that in and then bend it up. And I'll go through that as I get to the point where I'm going to bend these. Okay, so I modified the cab already. Now the next thing I need to do is just make, I picked up these, if they'll show up, but these are headlights castings. Let's see if it'll focus on them. But these are headlight castings, so what I'm going to do is I need to open an area up on the nose. This is a part that's making me a little bit nervous, but my plan is just to file it flat, and then I'm going to drill holes through once I've got it flattened, so I can put. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put the 0603 LEDs in here, and for the ditch lights themselves. So at least these 3 sets of light, or the 3 sets here, match in color. So a little nervous about this part, but I say let's dive right in. Alright, I'm using the picture that I got off of Railroad Picture Archives as a kind of as a rough guide. I don't have exact measurements, but I can see that the headlight ends just, or like the bottom of the headlight is just above the Wisconsin Central Herald, and then the top of it is looking at the picture, it's a few inches off the top of the nose. So I guess what I'm going to do is just take a pencil. I'm going to mark where I want to file to, and I'm going to give it a shot here. Now I think the key to this, of course, is to work slowly. This plastic is pretty soft, and this file is actually pretty sharp, so it's making short work of it, which is good and bad. The good news is that if you screw it up, you can always come back with a little bit of styrene, fill it in, and give it another go-round. Worst case scenario, you can always just get a different nose, possibly off another model, pick up an undecorated frame, pick up a frame off of something else, cut the nose off and start over. I hope I don't have to do that, but that's always an option. Okay, well, I gotta say I don't think I'm gonna test my luck anymore. I think that's a good notch, actually. Okay, so let's see if I can get this kind of working backwards here. I'm test fitting here, and it looks like I need to enlarge this a little bit, which is unfortunate because I'm pretty happy with how this is turning out here. So very delicately I'm going to enlarge it. I think I'm going to grow it up a little bit towards the top and just a little bit down towards the bottom. I think I'm going to use my razor saw to make a notch again and continue filing. Alright, I don't know how well this is going to show up, but you can see I've filed it enough that the headlight casting that I have fits in there quite nicely. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try and mark where the holes are, and then come back and just drill a few holes through there, so the LEDs will have a light pipe to shine through. That's another thought, actually, is what you could do is if you don't want to actually put the LEDs into the holes themselves, you can always make use of the plastic piece that came with and just use these you can just cut these. It cuts pretty easy with a razor saw, and then if you need to, you can burnish it just with a little bit of heat from your soldering iron or even open flame, and that'll repolish the end a little bit. And then you can actually, what I've done is glue the LED directly to this, and then you can insert this into the holes you've drilled, and you got kind of a light pipe then. So an option. We'll see if that's what I need to do on this one. Okay, so one of the things, the Kato engines come with this light pipe, which normally connects, or well, transfers the light from the LEDs here through the light pipe and then out the headlight on the cab itself. This unit is not set up, well, the model is not set up to have lit number boards. I could probably do it. I'm not that much of a stickler for lit number boards, and I probably should do it, but I'm gonna kind of keep that maybe as a future project. It'd be simple enough just to maybe drill a hole behind it and then bring one of the 0402 LEDs inside the number board itself to light it. But I'm not going to do that for now. So, but I am going to reuse this light pipe to some degree. And in looking at it, I don't know if you can see it here, but the headlight casting that I bought, lines up perfectly with the Kato light pipe, which is going to work out well because then it'll actually appear as though there are glass lenses in the headlight casting, which is perfect. And so then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to cut these wings off, which would have been for the number board on some models, but on this one they're just, you know, useless. And then I'm going to trim it, and I'll actually take the LED and glue it to the back of this piece, and then I can glue this in place in the nose once I've got the holes drilled here. So that'll be for that one. On that topic, for both this casting, the rear headlight also has a casting as well, and let's see if I can, there we go, pops it out. I'm going to do the same thing here. I'll probably end up, actually this one I may just leave and not use 0603 or the 0402 LEDs. They're kind of expensive. It's a backup light. No real reason to go and waste two 0402 LEDs on this guy. So this guy I'll probably leave as is. And again, the number boards are, well, they're somewhat lit. These actually have holes in them. If they show up, there's actually holes there, so they'll be somewhat lit. But again, it's the backup. I'm not real concerned about that one. The other thing I wanted to touch on is the ditch lights. I want to get these kind of in process as I'm working on other parts, so that when they're ready to apply, the paint will be dry. Because what you have to do is these ditch lights, for example, from Details Associates, don't come drilled out. They're actually a solid casting, and to use them as real ditch lights that have a LED showing through them, I'll need to drill them out. And then in the past, even though the 0402s, I'll size them first, but I've had to carve just a little bit extra out. Drill a hole that's big enough, and then carve a little bit out on the backside. The good thing is that you can super glue these directly into the housing itself, and the super glue won't damage the LED. And it also, now the downside to that is that once you've put super glue on there, you'll never be able to solder to the contacts on these 0402s again. To be quite honest, to solder to an 0402 pad on these LEDs, you need a pretty good magnifying glass and a pretty steady hand to do that anyway. So I'm going to start on that part. It's a little out of order, but I want to get these drilled out and painted black so the paint can dry, and then I can come back and glue in the LED for the ditch light. And then that way, when it's time to put them on the Pilot, these are ready to go. Okay, so here's the 2 ditch light castings. They're just plastic, not white metal or anything like that. I filed them down, cut them off the sprue. So now I'm just going to grab a drill bit and just drill out the center here. Sometimes it helps to start with a Pilot hole, a smaller hole, come back. Mileage may vary on what you need to do there. So I'm going to start by doing that, and then I'm going to test fit the 0402 resistor LED and see how it fits in there, and see if I need to do any carving out. Sometimes you got to just square it off a little bit, just to, because the LED is it's a rectangle. The 0402 is the dimensions actually, and so it is a rectangle, and obviously a square peg round hole. So sometimes you gotta shave a little bit, but so I'm gonna drill that out, and we'll come back and see how it turns out. Start over. Okay, so I'm gonna pre-paint some of the items. I test fitted the 0402 resistors in the LEDs in the ditch light housings, and thankfully the 0402s are small enough now that I don't need to notch anything out, so I'll be able to glue those directly in. And then next to it I've got the headlight casting. So basically what I have here is just a paint stick, and I put double-sided sticky tape on it, and if I know I've only got to paint one side, this, as the case is with the ditch lights and the headlight casting, I just stick it down, and then that way I don't have to worry about holding on to it with tweezers or anything like that. I use this a lot, especially when I airbrush. Then that way even the airbrush itself won't blow the parts away. And once everything's dry, you can just pop them off the tape. So as you can see, I've used this multiple times for several different colors. It works real well with handrails and stuff. If you want to, you can kind of tape down the bottom of it, or different things like that. So I'm going to go ahead and paint these, and then the other thing I'm going to paint at the same time, just so they're ready. There's other miscellaneous parts that I'm putting on. For instance, these lift rings that I'm going to put on. I'm going to pre-paint these. These are maroon. The headlight castings are yellow, and then black for the ditch light castings. And I'm going to reference my picture that I've got and see if there's any pre-included parts that come with the Kato unit that need to be painted before being applied. I think a lot of the stuff on this particular version came cast in color or pre-painted, so it doesn't look like I got a ton to do. So as I mentioned earlier, one of the main features of this particular model that I really like and really want to model is these snow shields off the back of the cab here to protect the air intake that's underneath them. There was a website that sold these pre-made in a metal kind of sheet metal. You could bend them up. Unfortunately, I got an email from the owner of the site and said that they've been having some issues with them. Okay, no big deal. So I'll have to fabricate these, and I'm just going to use sheet styrene to create it. This is the easier side. There's no door on this side, so there's no notches or anything. It looks like there's a small lift ring here possibly, so I might model that in. But overall, it's just an angle piece matching the roof line, matching the piece here. Okay, so dug in the styrene scrap bin that I've got, and I found I believe this is 0.03 thick sheet styrene. It's nice, and I wanted to try and find the thinnest stuff I could. You know, as I said, the kit that I was gonna get was gonna be bent sheet metal, which would have been nice and thin. So this should do. I got some dimensions and got them here. Basically, when you look at the pictures, the snow shield goes from the very back of the cab all the way to the end of this grill here. So that's a scale, well, according to my scale rule anyway, on this particular model, it's just over 8 feet. And so then I'll cut that for both of these, and create a little triangle piece in here. And as I suspected, on the engineer's side of the cab, there is a little bump out in this area here, and I'm just going to use some solid stock here, and I'll probably cut a piece off, angle it, and then glue it down, file it as I have to. We'll see how that works. So one of the techniques that I picked up on, I'll give credit to Cody Grivno on Model Railroader. I'm sure it's been talked about in many places, but when you scribe styrene and you use an X-Acto, it's actually easier if you use the back side of your blade to scribe it instead of trying to cut it. And what that'll do is that'll actually remove material instead of trying to create a V-groove in the styrene itself. Is this the best way? I don't know, but it's the method that I've used. You get it down far enough and then you just crack the styrene. So I'll take some measurements, and then I'll come back as I start to scribe it and show you the technique that I use. Okay, so I've got some measurements down for the first piece, and is that showing up? Not sure, hard to tell. So there's the first piece. I've got the other piece marked off, but I'm going to cut this one first and then see how much that removes from there. Kind of cutting a board, you're going to remove a piece, so you might want to remeasure. So I'm going to cut this one first, and we'll come back. I'm going to lop this whole thing off. So here's the technique I was talking about. Let's make sure this is in film here. And then I'll line up my line, and just gently come with the back side of the blade and start scribing with the back side of it. Now you might think that this takes a little bit longer, and it might, but you get a nice clean cut, and then once you get far enough, you can just bend it and it'll break off, and then you can come back with your file. So there's the first piece. Now one of the things that I'll have to do is, because this styrene is a little bit thicker, the top of this grill interferes a little bit with it sitting flush, so I'm going to have to come and just file this grill down a little bit. And then I'm also going to have to put a slight chamfer on this edge so it sits flush. Being that it isn't the sheet metal piece like I'd hoped, I have to simulate it and take away some of this thickness. So I'll probably just use my file and slowly work a chamfer into it best I can. So, a sanding stick, not file. This is my file. But anyway, I'll work like I said, I'll work a chamfer into it, and also file off that one. So, alright, well, I'm going to continue to keep working on this, and we'll flip back when I've got them to a point where I can show something different. Okay, so I finished the two different snow shields. Nothing real special about them. I went ahead and glued on this punch out piece here for the door behind the engineer on the side of the cab, and then just for a little added strength I just put a brace in there. Then you can see I filed down the grill here. You can kind of see it from this side. And then this piece fits right in here like this. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to paint these before applying them. Like I said, I'm going to have to try and do my best and match this Kato maroon that they used, and see how I can do. And here's the other side. This one doesn't have anything on it. There's no door. So those will go on either side. While that was drying, or while I was working on that, I painted the nose where I filed that out. Actually, what I did was I mixed I have some Badger yellow. It's not yellow. It's Model Flex Wisconsin Central cream, and I thought that was too yellow. So what I did was I actually took some of the let's see, is it polyscale? Yeah, a little polyscale Wisconsin Central maroon. Mixed the two together, which actually, because I thought, you know what, this could use a little bit more brown or red. So I thought I'll just try some maroon, and I think it matched pretty well actually. It blended quite well. Once the headlight is in there, the headlight casting, it'll be harder to see. And then I filled the hole here in the cab itself where the headlight used to be. Up at the top, it's not focusing, there we go. But you can see I filled in the bottom hole and then left the top one, which is where the bell will go in. And then all of those parts are here. One of the things that I've got to retrofit is this particular engine had a brake wheel, and then I'm going to have to figure out how to do that. That might be a little bit of a hack job. This nose is set up for the, I believe it's like a ratcheting type. Not real positive on that, but it's definitely not a brake wheel. But I'm hoping I'm just going to drill a hole, put a brake wheel in there. That'll cover up this mechanism, and it'll be hard to tell that it isn't the right style. But then there's the headlight casting, and there's the ditch light. So that's what I'm going to work on now, is actually the ditch lights. I'm going to glue those in place, and then glue the ditch lights into there, the LEDs, and then mount them to the frame itself. Okay, well, this video is getting a little bit longer than I expected. This isn't the kind of project that just takes one weekend. Actually, I've been working on this project now for, well, with everything going on, and it's soccer season for my kids now, and so I've got that going on. Of course, I'm still riding, all that good stuff, blah, blah, blah. But I thought I'd at least try and get this first half of the video out. The 0402's LED ditch lights will be coming up next. I'm having some issues with getting the wiring right. They coat the wiring with it's basically winding wire, which is used to make transformers, and it's an enamel coating, and in general you can burn that off either with a soldering iron or even just, you know, like a lighter or something like that, an open flame. But for some reason I'm having trouble burning this enamel off, and so I'm having trouble getting the ditch lights to function properly. So I want to resolve that and show you how I went about getting that fixed. So for now, that's the detail project as it stands. We'll come back with part number 2 and future installment, hopefully shortly. I want to continue to keep working on this as much as I can, but it's been a while since I've gotten a video up, so I figured now it's time to get something up. So one thing I wanted to touch on before I close out this video, though, is back to the paying it forward and plugging someone else's YouTube website. I still frequent YouTube as much as I can, even if I can't work on the layout. But one gentleman that I found recently goes by the YouTube name djstrains, and I'll throw a link in my show notes for this show to his YouTube channel. He's an N-scale modeler. He does a lot of great kit bashing and scratch building of structures, and he did some scenery work on riverbed, and I thought that was great because it's one thing that I really haven't touched on yet is water, mainly because I don't have any on the layout. But so it doesn't matter the scale, it's good model railroading tips, and he's actually pretty entertaining too. He's got some good punchlines, not as dry as I am, I guess. So you know, if you want a good laugh and some good tips, go over and check out djstrains. So thanks again for sticking with me. Hopefully now that fall is coming and the colder weather is on its way, I'll be down in the basement more working on trains, and hopefully some more videos coming up. So thanks again for subscribing, and if you're not a subscriber, please consider it. Click the subscribe button. If you've got any comments or anything like that, please let me know, and I'll try and respond to them. Thanks a lot, everyone.